Hello and welcome to the SuperShow podcast, a podcast occasionally about gaming, as long as we can kind of keep ourselves on track, which might not be too difficult this week. I know Jamie's shaking his head, but Jamie, it's just you and me, baby.
Yeah, and I'm going to make your life a living hell, buddy. Talk about staying on track. I'm going to make this the gosh darndest least gaming-focused podcast you've ever been on, motherfucker.
Listen here. Don't motherfucker me, motherfucker, because
okay, I apologize.
This is going to be a 1 hour podcast. Mark my words.
The last time you said that, I think it was 4 hours long. It's like, you've got to remember, Chris, there's an inverse correlation between how long you want a podcast to be and how long it will actually be. Like, the second you try and pitch a half-an-hour podcast, that's where we break the 5-hour mark.
This is true, but we've never broached the 4-hour mark yet.
Tonight's the night.
That would be a good stretch goal. Maybe if it's like a, I don't know, like... Maybe we hit a milestone on Patreon, like a stretch goal, whatever. It's like, hey, we'll give you a 5-hour podcast. You know, like how Ludwig did like the subathon.
Yeah.
And this guy's toast now wants to do like the viewathon and blah, blah, blah.
His viewathon is ongoing, I believe, as we record.
Oh, well, there we go. We'll do the sufferthon, where we just suffer through, or we make other people suffer through listening to us for multiple hours.
Yeah, I'm down. Has there been a 24-hour podcast before? Can we push the envelope that much?
I don't know. That would be pretty sick, actually. Although I would not like to know what the encoding time on that on that render would be. But there we go.
We just break it down into 3,200 YouTube shorts or TikToks.
Yeah,
it's fine. That's what the kids want nowadays.
No, it's what they want. You know, you can't argue with that. I will say though, Jamie, that last week I posted the question to the audience. You know, do they like the way that we kind of run things? And, majority of the people that did reply said, yes, they did. They liked it. We shouldn't change. They're here for it. But then that makes sense because they're not some of the people that have unsubscribed from us in the past.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They're not the people who have gone away, who have actively distanced themselves from us.
Yeah. To be fair, though, maybe we do need to start thinking about some kind of like pushing ourselves out there. I know Peaswad was mentioning, hey, why don't you guys make shorts and just do something to kind of like promote yourselves, and that crazy son of a bitch might be onto something, Jamie. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, but it's also, I don't know, it seems a bit boring and it seems a bit cliche to, nobody wants to want success, Chris. You have to have it fall into your lap and be surprised by its presence.
This is true. It's the only way to live, really.
Exactly. Every time something goes right in your life, it's a happy accident rather than something you are actively working towards.
Exactly. But Jamie, obviously we got to discuss the missing elephant in the room.
Hang on, I'm here. I thought I was the resident elephant.
Well,
Jonesy's more of a rhino or an aardvark.
I think he's more like a chimpanzee because he's got those fucking weird monkey shoes.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about his weird monkey balls and arse.
That's true. I mean, he does have a monkey arse.
Jonesy has far more in common with baboons than meets the eye, folks. Trust me.
Yeah, it's uncanny, actually. It's like more chimpanzees than baboons.
Fair.
Because chimpanzees, they gather in a mob, and I think they're the only animal in the animal kingdom that have been known to have premeditated murder on their minds.
Okay, yes, that does resonate now that you mention it.
Yeah, but yes, of course, our own resident nutjob, who we love, Alex Jones, is not with us because, again, like after his very successful tour of Kazakhstan, which he said was lovely this time of year, he's decided to go on a bit of another journey, Jamie.
Yeah,
another bit of a holiday.
Indeed.
I did receive a postcard from him today, in fact, from the Ukraine. Kiev.
Okay, yep.
Kiev specifically. I asked him why Kiev. He says he just fucking loves chicken Kievs. It's like, okay, fine, go for it. So I'm sure he's having a lovely time there, like very chilled, very relaxed. London can sometimes be like quite stressful and like...
Did he tell you about the hike that he had planned?
No.
He's got this hike. He's got this whole route planned out. Apparently, it takes him right down to the border, and he just kind of like walks along the border for a couple of miles. It sounds like a really nice route that he's got figured out. Him and their family. So I'm sure they're gonna love that.
Yeah. I just can't wait until he's back next week because he's definitely coming back.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, what could possibly go wrong?
Nah, it's good times all around. 2022, baby.
No more war, right?
Whoa. Fucking hell. Yeah, but there we go. So no Jonesy today, just us. You stuck with us, but that's no bad thing because hey, guess what? We are kind of sometimes a gaming podcast that talk a lot of shit and hopefully entertain you. We are available on YouTube at SuperShow Pod, or well, it'll be like youtube.com/SuperShow Pod. We are also available on podcasting platforms of your choice. I'm talking Spotify, iTunes, fucking other things. Google Podcasts.
That's one. Yeah, that counts.
Deezer, Stitcher, all these things. We are also, Jamie, and I know you know this because this is close to your heart, available in Scotland.
Yes, it is close to my heart, yeah.
And not just Scotland, the metaverse version of Scotland, in a way. Because we are available, of course, on internet radio, paisley.com, Thursdays?
Yes.
I want to say 10 p.m. Yes, it's 10
You're
p.m. Repeated on Mondays. So, you know, if you wanted to listen to us on an internet radio platform where it's kind of like you can't not listen to us, then head on over there.
I love the idea. Sorry, did you just suggest that Paisley Radio exists in the metaverse?
I mean, kind of.
Like, I'm going to put on my Oculus headset. Oh, no, sorry, excuse me, my Meta headset. And I'm going to walk over to the physical location of Paisley Radio and, like, tune in?
Yeah. I mean, if Zuckerberg had his fucking way, yeah.
I'm not sure Zuckerberg's going to have his way if the polls are anything, not the actual polls, but the metaphorical polls.
What's this got to do with?
It's not the actual polls, but Chris, it's the polls that people create with their not real money, the speculatory money, not real but real polls.
Oh, like the exit polls that told us that Brexit wasn't going to happen.
Chris, fundamentally, I know business and I know a hot product when I see one, and I see a hot product in Paisley Radio. I'd like to also introduce the world, and by world I mean the listeners of this podcast, to Paisley Coin. It's the hottest crypto going to hit the market. I will say we are also partnering with Paisley Radio on a number of hot and sexy NFTs. I don't really know what we're just going to kind of like find some art that is made by someone else but looks cool, and then steal that and mint it.
Jamie, I was going to bring this up another time, but like seeing as you broached the subject, I am actually actively working on minting my own NFT series for the channel.
There we go. I love to hear it.
Yeah. So if you want to support us with destroying the planet ecologically, of course, and wasting your money, then be on the lookout for sexy digital Jamie Pillow NFTs.
Yes.
Coming soon.
And you know what?
Jamie, ask me how I'm spelling coming.
How you spelling coming?
C-U-M-I-N.
See, yeah, that's cumin. The spice. Right. See, the nice thing about this, Chris, is it's the perfect double whammy, right? In the short term, we get everyone's life savings and they get to lose all their money and it become even more reliant on us for entertainment. I presume that's how it works. In the long run, we get to admit that we made a mistake. It wasn't really our fault. We followed bad advice. We're backing away from NFTs and we really, really apologize. We get all the positive PR from that apology and it's a net positive. Money and PR. The NFT machine at its finest.
Oh my god.
You got to love it.
You gotta love it. Man, what did you think of those fucking worms NFTs?
Oh, bro. See, at this point, when a gaming company in any way, shape or form announces an NFT project, it's not even what do you think of it. It's not what is the art or what is it worth or how many people are actually interested in it. It's how long until they admit this was a horrible fucking idea. And with that one, it was even worse, right? Because it was, what are they called? Team 17. Which, of course, like we always joke about, they are synonymous with worms, and they were making worms NFTs. But now they've also reached a size where they're publishers. So, you have indie developers or people that were planning to publish their small games with Team 17 going like out on Twitter being like, yeah, fuck this. We want nothing to do with this. Fuck NFTs. They're a waste of fucking space. We're backing away from everything Team 17 related.
There was that one developer like Crabs with Knives or some shit like that. And they were like, we actually actively encourage people not to work with Team 17. And then, of course, there was a Eurogamer article that came out that was a bit of an expose as to, like, not just NFT, but just, like, the issues happening within Team 17. It's fascinating. Like,
but now
NFT is the gift that just keeps on giving, Jamie.
It is. Although we're in a weird space now where, so there was a report today, basically, I don't know if you've seen it, but a couple of head honchos, if you will, at Platinum Games have been doing interviews lately because they've been fielding questions about acquisition, about the future of Platinum and the kind of projects they want to work on in the future.
Can I interrupt you very quickly?
Of course.
Especially on the acquisition side of things. When I was reading that article, it just kind of, I could just imagine the fucking guy, whatever his name is, the Japanese dude, and he's like,
that narrows it down.
Yeah, that narrows it down.
Oh, that Platinum Games Japanese dude. Tell me more.
The main dude. But he'd just be like, effectively what he's saying is like, Phil Spencer-kun, please buy us.
Please buy us and bring Scalebound back, I beg you.
Yeah, exactly. But sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say they were asked about NFTs and their response was, we don't want to do that. We don't think there's any value there for us. We don't think there's any value there for the gamer, which kind of fairly succinctly sums up everyone's thoughts on NFTs that have been developing over the last couple of weeks, if not months. But I saw one of the top responses on Twitter was someone actually criticising them, not for publicly denouncing their interest in NFTs or lack thereof, but because they criticised it as a pure PR move. So now I'd say you're damned if you do, damned if you don't situation where...
so they're saying like they got shut on because they're like, oh, you're just jumping on the bandwagon and starting to hate on NFTs.
Literally.
That's mental.
So it's like either you do NFTs and you're, a money-grubbing fucker, or you distance yourself from NFTs and you're just trying to get good PR. It's literally lose-lose. So,
it's mad. There was more so on gaming than NFTs. So a bunch of like original devs of Witcher 3 and some Cyberpunk 2077 devs, they split off and formed their own studio from CDPR called Rebel Wolves, I believe.
That rings a bell, yeah.
Yeah, and they said in their kind of like press release about the game that they're making, which, could be pretty cool, like a AAA, like high fantasy title. But basically saying like, no, we'll never have NFTs or blockchain technology in our game, and we never will. It's like, yeah, cool, fair enough, like strong statements. Then I think there was someone from, was it maybe the guy from Tango Softworks said, that they, I don't know if you saw, I'm pretty sure it was them. It might have been someone else, but again, some Japanese dude. And
they've been doing the rounds lately.
Oh yeah, these Japanese dudes, they're everywhere. And he was asked about NFTs in his studio, and he's like, no, I'm not going to do it. And then they said, oh, because like Capcom, or was it? No,
it was Konami. I know what you mean.
Konami, Konami are interested in kind of NFTs, and the response was like, oh yeah, well, if there's money involved, Konami's going to be the first to kind of jump in, like feet first.
Yeah.
I just thought that was so fucking funny. Like, what a fucking burn.
Yeah. Now we just need someone to offer Konami money in return for their intellectual property, and we're laughing.
Hell yeah. Microsoft, where you at? PlayStation, where you at?
Get that checkbook out, Philly P. Philly SP. SP, yeah.
Philly, yeah.
Just roll with it, Chris.
SPENCR.
We spell it out in full every time.
Yeah. But fucking speaking of the metaverse, there was that fucking ad playing on during the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Which was an ad for Meta, which was formerly the artist formerly known as Facebook.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like the Five Nights at Freddy's kind of animatronics, and this guy kind of like it's a little animatronic thing, and then it moves from like place to place and being repurposed for different things, eventually being like a mascot for like a hotel or something, blah blah blah.
Okay.
And it's like, getting more and more kind of like dilapidated as it goes on. And then finds himself as a mascot to like a tech store, and then someone puts on a Meta Quest 2 headset.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, this fucking animatronic is in the metaverse, and his life is like fulfilled, and he's so happy. And this was a fucking prime time ad.
Jesus Christ.
And it's just like, I still don't get it, dude. Like, what? I kind of feel like it's a joke that's gone on for too long. It's almost like a joke happens and everyone's like in on the joke, but then it kind of goes on a little bit too long. It starts to get like really fucking cringe. The whole NFT metaverse thing is that it's effectively, do you know the way? But like trying to convince people, like so many people are fucking jumping in on this metaverse, but it's the dumbest fucking thing.
You say that though, but like again, one of the biggest companies on the entire planet changed their name to represent the fact that they're closer aligning themselves with the metaverse as a part of their future. There is a part of the metaverse push that does feel somewhat inevitable because, again, again, maybe this is me being slightly pessimistic, but at some point, if enough of these companies at that size and at that scale start to back it, then it becomes a part of our lives whether we want it to or not. These are companies that can implement changes that we don't think are in our best interests just because they can. I didn't want to use USBs, but I didn't want to lose the headphone jack, But these things happened.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but like, I don't know. It almost feels like everyone's kind of like me, being very shifty-eyed and kind of trying to see what everyone else is doing, and then they don't want to be left behind. So like, you hear that big companies like, fucking hell, what is it? McDonald's, Nike, Adidas, they're all climbing on and releasing shit on the metaverse. Like, I'm sorry, I don't need McDonald's in my metaverse of all things, and it's just almost like there's no point. Like, okay, let's take Nike and Adidas, for instance. Adidas are getting into it. They're producing NFTs. So Nike's like, well, we have to. Right?
Yeah,
like,
sure.
We just fucking have to.
No one wants to be left behind.
No one wants to be left behind. And I don't know. I get so fucking angry about this, Jamie. I get like seriously. I can't sleep at night.
See, the thing is, Chris, and again,
I get hot sweats.
I get you, and I'm there with you. And this is something I'm better at preaching than practicing. Trust me. But sometimes when it comes to the ducking and diving and the moving and shaking of multi-billion-dollar organizations, I don't lose any sleep over it, because there's a certain inevitability to whatever they're going to do, and we can't help it. We're just going to kind of go with the flow. We're going to eat the food they put in front of us. We're going to wear the clothes they put on our bodies. We're going to play the games they sell us. We've managed to get some pushback. We're not buying the NFTs they're trying to force down our throats, but again, call me a pessimist, but there's a certain amount of inevitability to all of this that I'm just like, do you know what? Whatever. I'm just going to kind of chill and play video games and see what happens.
Jamie, you know what? Thanos also said that he was inevitable, and look how that ended up for him. So
I mean, he felt like he made the world a better place. So
he did. And Iron Man had to come. The Avengers had to come and fucking ruin everything.
Can I let you in on a little secret, Chris?
Yeah, please do.
If I survive the snap, I got public transport today. I got on the London Underground at Oxford Circus at 6:30 p.m. this afternoon, and I can tell you that if I survived the snap, I'd have been pretty fucking happy with Thanos' plan. I'd be like, you know what, that dude was onto something.
Yeah, and on the other hand, if you didn't survive the snap, how would you fucking know? You're dead.
Yeah, literally, exactly. Yeah, that's why when people ask me how I want to die, I want to get shot in the back of the head by an unseen assailant.
Jesus, okay.
Well, again, because, lights out, boom, you're gone. Unless it's one of those weird ones where, like, he shoots from the back of the head and it somehow, like, misses your brain in a few different arteries, or, like, goes out through your cheek, like in Fight Club, and then you're just bleeding, and it's like, oh, well, come on.
Or like, fucking, the world is not enough, where the bullet is slowly is lodged in your brain, is slowly, like, traveling to your fucking, what's called, like, the fucking hippocampus or something, and eventually you're going to die, but it's going to be super excruciating for, like, 3 years.
Hey, do you know what? The world is not enough. Underrated Bond film. A lot of people point to Brosnan's high point being GoldenEye. They're right, but The World Is Not Enough. Totally reasonable Bond film.
I think The World Is Not Enough is maybe my second favourite Brosnan.
There you go. I think you're maybe right. I never really quite got the taste for Tomorrow Never Dies.
Yeah.
And then Die Another Day, we don't need to talk about.
Oh, no, we don't talk about that. No, we don't talk about Bruno, Jamie. So,
no.
But you know what we do talk about?
Encanto?
Comments.
Oh, yeah.
No, comments, buddy, because we have comment of the week. So strap yourself in. It's a bit of a long one, this one. This one coming in from Michael Austin. Hey, guys, love the pod. Been an active fan since the ATG. Just the ATG.
The ATG. I like it.
The ATG. That's the kind of eminence that it deserves.
No, that's like when we've done too many sequels and we don't know where to go next. It's the ATG.
The ATG, yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
He goes on to say, and started watching SuperShow around episode 6, which was the Warcraft 3 Reforged episode.
Nice. I remember it well.
I don't.
I go back and watch them sometimes. I'm a sad man.
I don't even know what number this is. It's like...
This is 110.
110?
Yeah.
Fuck me. There we go.
I know, right?
Jesus Christ. But yeah, there we go. He goes on to say, making this comment to help with engagement and also boost the channel's algorithm. See, he's doing his part. Everybody else, I'd expect you to do the same. However, he says, on the topic of GTA 6, I think the game will take place in one of two places. All right? Let's see where this goes. Number one, Vice City, like you guys said, because out of the original three locations, those being Vice City, San Andreas, and Liberty City, Vice City is the only one that hasn't been revisited in a future game yet. That's a fair point. It's a very interesting point. And he does go on to offer a second one, is number two, like how Jamie said about San Andreas being a tri-area of Las Vegas, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. I think GTA 6 could potentially be a tri-area in the south, taking place in Houston, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia, and New Orleans, Louisiana. Those cities are well-known U.S. cities with rich cultures, gang violence, and murder rates, so it makes sense. See, I think that's an important distinction that he's made there, is rich cultures, gang violence, and murder rates. Super important to have in your GTA 6 game.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what? I'm going to go out and say it. I like both of these ideas from Michael, and I think there's a certain plausibility to both of them. I think the Vice City one is kind of one of the going suspicions, one of the going conspiracies, if you will, around the game, and has been for some time. And I think
it's probably the most popular one, right?
Yeah, because like Michael said, there is this weird thing of like there's so much reverence and so much nostalgia people have for Miami in that era, or just Florida in that era, even though most people never lived it. It's movies that have kept that feeling alive over the years.
It's Miami Vice, baby.
Big time. It's Miami Vice, it's Scarface, it's all those things. And I think seeing them expand on Vice City in the same way they expanded on Los Santos in between San Andreas and GTA 5 would make a lot of sense for GTA 6. I think it would make a lot of people happy. That said, I think Michael's also come up with a really cool idea about how you can, take the perspective and shift the perspective away from, hey, like, it's either West Coast, East Coast, or bust. And, hey, you go to the south, and if there were some way to smush the three cities and states in question together and make it make sense, even though it doesn't have to be perfectly geographically accurate, of course, GTA never is. You're absolutely right. Like Texas, Georgia, and Louisiana, you can get three very distinct feeling maps and three very distinct feeling cities out of those three states. And it also just feels like, again, looking specifically at Houston, Atlanta, and New Orleans, like there are very easy ways to send up and make a pastiche of some of the more on-the-nose elements of the, whether that's, Mardi Gras in New Orleans or like some of the sort of like more rowdy kind of like the stereotypical Texan elements that we talked about last week. There's room there for a little bit of a few, elbows, a few ribbings, a few jokes, while also having like a visually diverse map. Like, it's cool.
I want to bring up an image of the United States.
Oh God, don't remind me. Every now and then I go on Sporkle, that stupid fucking quiz website, and I'm like,
Sporkle,
you know what? This is the time where I get the fucking US states quiz 100% correct, and I get like 3 states in. I've probably put down California, Texas, and like one other, and I'm like, fuck. Because and it's always stupid shit where I think I know exactly where New York is, because New York is New York, and it's like, actually I just clicked on New Jersey, or it turns out that's Rhode Island or whatever.
Those are easy mistakes to make, though. Come on.
Yeah, they're all too close together, is what I'm going to say.
But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I was thinking, I've got 2 more ideas, right?
Okay.
One more serious and one kind of like a little bit fun.
Okay.
But what about doing like Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, and then what you could potentially do is even go to like Central America, kind of.
I like that.
Mexico. So, if you think about like the violence and the gangs and the Sicario kind of stuff, but
the 2 pieces of media that popped up in my head were Sicario and Breaking Bad. That's kind of like touchstones.
Yeah, exactly. And like you got your drugs and you got your violence there, which is brought on by what Michael Austin said there. But you want to hear my fun idea?
Yeah, let's do it. And don't say South Africa or Greece.
Oh, I've always said that South Africa would be a fucking...
It would actually be legit. It would be a very different game, but...
It would be so sick. But yeah, no, if we're keeping it like America-based, right?
Yeah.
What about Florida? All right?
Okay. You have to expand, because obviously,
So, Florida is America's retirement home, as we know.
Yeah.
Okay, all the geriatrics go there. They all live in these, like retirement villages and villas and what have you. And it's all very tropical. So, if people are kind of like clamoring for that Miami Vice kind of style. Like, hey, guess what? There's fucking palm trees in Florida. There's crocodiles in Florida. There's some cool shit goes down in Florida. But here's the wrinkle. Okay.
I was going to say, because you're just describing Vice City at the moment.
Yes, yeah. But here's the wrinkle.
Okay.
It's you keep it that it's all octogenarian based.
Okay,
You
that was
play-
the Square Enix game, right? Octogenarian Traveler.
Yeah, fuck. Can you imagine?
Okay, I don't know what that word means. Sorry.
Octogenarian is someone in the 80s.
Oh, okay, cool. That's why I don't know what it means. I've never met anyone.
So imagine now, okay? And I think this is probably because I've still been watching way too much Seinfeld and quite a bit of it. Like, Jerry's parents live in Florida, and it's just kind of like, it's absolutely mental there.
Okay.
But, like, you know, you're like president of the estate, you know, where everyone's kind of fucking retired, and there's like all this like power struggle, and all these old people on fucking drugs and like Viagra and shit. I think that would be so funny.
Okay,
That'd be
yeah.
cool, man.
No, I get where you're coming from. And I think it's also interesting. I can't remember where we discussed this before. It might have been on the Discord. But there's definitely a lot more to Florida, especially 21st century Florida, than, you know, the Miami Vice send-ups would have you believe. And if you found some way to get the GTA take on Florida Man, that would be quite fun.
Fuck, you actually fucking nailed it. Florida Man. That's
Yeah.
You just need Florida Man, the game.
Exactly. Like, instead of Miami Vice Florida, it's Bath Salts Florida. That's, you know.
I fucking love it. I went on a holiday in a while back, going to kind of like
Oh, you went on a trip, huh?
I tripped, buddy. No, but I went to Florida and we took a drive down to the Florida Keys. And as we're driving down there, there's like, so it's kind of weird. There's like long bridges that then go to a little bit of a landmass that goes to another long bridge, and that's kind of like how you.
Okay. And are
travel
they
along.
the Florida locks or?
Yeah, something like that. Like
No, that was
whatever.
just a joke.
Oh,
You
the
said-
keys,
yeah.
the locks and the keys. Yeah, very good. Now, anyway, and what was really weird is like, it's so bad.
I know.
I'm trying to tell a story.
I
and it's
genuinely
fucking-
apologize. It was
Anyway.
just not worth it.
on these land masses, they had like, you know, like the buildings or whatever, the people living on that little bit of a landmass, and then it kind of carries on. It's not like a big kind of thing. And there were, I shit you not, drive-through liquor stores and drive-through gun stores.
Perfect.
And I was like, this is gold. This is fucking great.
I
So
mean, yeah.
I've given three alternatives there. Okay, I've given like the Arizona, New Mexico, Texas kind of angle.
Yep.
Given you the Florida angle, and then of course last week I mentioned the kind of like Washington D.C. angle of like the real criminals in the world, which is politicians.
Yep. I think if we discussed any more ideas, we'd pretty much cover the entire continental United States. So maybe that's a good place to leave it. I think
Yeah,
we've got some cracking
Colorado,
ideas in there.
Nebraska, and Kansas. Let's go.
Yeah, it's like, how about GTA South Dakota? What happened to South Dakota? Fuck only knows, but we'll figure something out.
I love it. Yeah. Well, there we go. That's the comment of the week from Michael Lawson. Thank you so much. Obviously, we love fucking speculating and love speculating about GTA 6. So there we go.
Yes.
Now, talking about speculation, Jamie, a lot of people get in financial troubles because they speculate on their finances.
Yes.
But you know what is a solid fucking investment? Probably the best investment you can do at the moment. I'm not talking about like NFTs or kind of like investing in the metaverse with like digital property.
Okay, so we're excluding Paisley coin here.
Yeah, no Paisley coin. Although
Okay.
you could potentially use Paisley coin in what I'm about to suggest, because this is the primo. This should be on like r/what is it, fucking r/Wall Street Bets. Okay.
Yes. Or this is stonks or whatever you're meant to say. Yeah.
Exactly. If you want to know, if you want to have your finger on the pulse, all right. And this is my way of introducing myself as announcing that I'm starting to be a crypto TikToker. So, watch out for that one. But
cryptoker.
the best investment that you can make in 2022 is pledging to our Patreon, patreon.com/SuperShow, and supporting your favorite misguided, almost gaming podcast. Because everything that you support us with there helps keep this show ticking. And hey, man, like it's a two-way street. It's one of those kind of like revolving doors. Okay, you can come in, but you can also come out. In other words, you give us money, we'll give you something in return. We're talking about Discord access. We're talking about behind the scenes. We're talking about legacy shows from ATG days.
Yep.
We're also talking about some Patreon exclusive podcasts, such as Known Murderer and something else that we did.
I mean, like we got After Dark, right? We've got Full Frontal.
We've
all
got
that
After
fun
Dark
stuff.
Full Frontal, which is the same kind of thing. We've got some spoiler casts and hopefully some more. Oh, the ATG pre-show, that's what it was.
Oh yeah.
Which is kind of like an off-the-cuff, kind of like, a little chilly thing.
You've heard of pre-game and pre-drinks. Well, now it's pre-show.
Oh, yeah, baby. And of course, we're very grateful for any support, whether you watching the show, subscribed, resisting the urge to unsubscribe like so many people have, or just leaving a comment. But, if you found it in your heart to throw us a few coins, we would most certainly appreciate it. It does help to keep the lights on and the cameras rolling, as it were. And I'm going to read out some names of people that have been generous enough to, spread the wealth, as it were. Spread bets, which is what it's all about.
Yes.
I'm, of course, talking about Aaron Cameron, Athletic Gravy, Helium Joker, Jesper Camdal Nielsen, Known Geld Mark Clancy, Leo Murger, Mindful Pig, Mr. Anthropic, Nathan Piers, Pastors Guild, Scary Omen, Starfall Kid, and the Big Boys. Gosh, I love these guys so much. Brett Z, Doppler, Geometric Potter, Hacksaw Book Read, Manuel Guerrero, Peaswad, and The Uncaged. Thank you, one and all. And, even I've had some people, Jamie, kind of like reach out to me and say, hey, I would have liked to have supported the Patreon, but one guy was like, I live in Brazil and our currency is worth shit. And it's like,
Yeah, I remember.
Dude. Yeah, it's like, dude, there are ways to support us that don't involve money. Of course, money is always good. But yeah, just watching, spread the good word of ATG. And, if you want to support us,
Yeah.
the Patreon is there.
And hey,
Patreon.com/SuperShow.
spread the good word of Super Show while you're at it. ATG, it could do with
Did
the
I
help.
say ATG?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, maybe don't spread the good word of ATG because that's
Spread the bad word of ATG.
No, well, don't besmirch the OG.
No, I say besmirch it. Let's shit all over that fucker.
Wow.
No
ATG?
good motherfucker.
Not for me. Anyway, Jamie, I want to know what you have been playing in this past week because
Okay.
it's been interesting because interestingly enough, by the time this podcast goes up, Horizon Zero Dawn would have come out.
It's true. At the time of recording, Horizon Zero Dawn goes live in 1 hour and 14 minutes. So, not that I'm paying attention to the clock or anything. Yeah, it's been weird because there's a part of me that wants to come in and talk about my past week by saying that it has been the calm before the storm, if you will, when the reality is that we have been well and truly in the eye of the storm pretty much since the month started. It just so happens that I have not played any of Dying Light 2 or any of Sifu or any of Pokemon Legends Arceus because there's been, things happening on and off the podcast, a bit of upheaval, new job for what it's worth, that I only started a couple of weeks ago. So, bedding some things in and trying to find the right approach to play what have been, in most cases, some pretty chunky video games. It hasn't helped that so many of them have been so sizable, and the one that wasn't so sizable looked really fucking difficult. But that has allowed me to continue clearing out things from my backlog, which I've made some decent progress on this week. The things I wanted to touch base on, one slightly less newsworthy one, Far Cry 6, which I've been working on and off for the last couple of months. And
have you finished that now?
I'm very close. The end is in sight, where I've done all the legwork. I've gotten through that middle chapter lull where you're like, am I really doing this? Am I committed to this? And right now, Giancarlo Esposito is, so to speak.
He's in your sights.
He's in my sights. I'm going to shoot that motherfucker's head off at some point. I presume, unless there's a choice involved, maybe I let him go free and, maybe I let the people of Yara kill him or something. I don't know, there might be a twist. But I hope I get to shoot him in the head or, chop his head off or get my crocodile to eat his head. Any of the above, I'll settle for.
Would be good, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, question for you. So, do you know how long you've been playing so far?
I mean, on the PlayStation it says I've been playing for 60 hours. That is not
60 hours?
That is not the case. I leave my PlayStation on a lot.
Yeah.
Do you know what? It's weird. A lot of people, when they came in with their estimates... Sorry, go for it.
Can I just say something about that? Because I know... Because I was concerned about it with... when was it? 2 years ago now? Surely not. Maybe.
Which game?
Probably. Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Right. I don't have no idea how long that took me, or how long it's even meant to take. Should I check?
You can, but like it doesn't really factor into what I was going to say, because I remember looking at my thing then. I was like, oh shit, I left this game idling at some point, so
right.
I'm not sure like what the accurate thing is. And it was around that time that I found out that PlayStation stops counting if you've been in a game if your game has been idle after a certain amount of time.
Okay.
And then it kind of kicks in again when you pick up. So if you just have the menu running, as an example, there's like a lead time of like 10 minutes or something, and then it stops.
See, interesting. There is one thing then that I will say might have padded my stats slightly, which is that as I've sort of spoken about in the podcast before, I have a group of people I play games with on PlayStation, and we're usually playing Call of Duty or Warzone or FIFA and stuff like that. But sometimes, recently more so than ever before, we're actually not playing that much. We're just chatting, and we might like join a party and hang out for a couple of hours. And I have used Far Cry every now and then as a background noise game for those conversations.
Yeah.
And when I do that, I will sometimes on autopilot spend 2 to 3 hours going through that open world, clearing out outposts, just killing people and unlocking things.
So no objective in mind.
Yeah, for reference, like anyone who played that game, there are, every time you arrive at a new portion of the map and establish a new outpost with your allies in each of those portions of the map, there are 3, you can build 2 facilities within those outposts, which makes for 6 in total. And each of those facilities can be upgraded twice. So it starts at level 1, then goes to level 2, then it goes to level 3. When I got to the second and third outposts, I had enough resources to immediately build both facilities and immediately upgrade both facilities to the top level in both places at once. Because I'd spent so much time wandering around and just doing jack shit that I had all these resources. So there's a bit of that going on.
I like it. It's cool.
I'm not mad about Far Cry. I'll be honest, Chris. I think it's a bit of a bummer of a video game. I think,
and yet you've played 60 hours of it. So
I like to see things through. I like to complete games where I can, and there are some elements that I do want to see how they pay off. Even if that like main story arc is not actually as engaging as it could be, and Giancarlo Esposito isn't really used as well as he could be. I like the fundamentals of the Far Cry formula still to this day. I like the freedom it offers you. I like that sometimes I do go stealth heavy and sometimes I do get bored and just blow everyone up. And when you do want to blow anyone up, you do have the tools of destruction, a la Mercenaries, to do whatever you want, to fuck shit up. And that's fun. It's just everything about that game, all the trappings of that game aren't that engaging. And when you're in the middle of a real slog of an open world game, and you need that drive, that pull, that makes you open up that map and say, I'm going to place a marker there and I'm going to go there. I'm going to do that mission. Sometimes that drive or that pull is just not there for me.
What about, because sometimes when that drive isn't there, then it kind of reverts to the point of saying, okay, I'm going to stop viewing this game as an open world game, and I'm just going to go main narrative mission to main narrative mission to, and sometimes that doesn't kind of hold up either.
Yes, see, that's the issue with Far Cry. That is the point I arrived at, and it didn't hold up. And when I say I'm looking at my map and looking at which icon to go to, I'm talking about the main story missions, and it's because I just found there was nothing I could latch onto there. It's got the structure where it separates the open world into 3 sort of distinct regions once you're past the prologue area. And it kind of allies you to certain individuals within those regions, and they've each got their own succinct stories, and they try and differentiate them a little bit. Like, one section has this couple who are both famous rappers, and you're trying to use them to be like the voice of Yara because they can get on the radio waves and inspire people to join La Revolution. I'm trying to say things without the Spanish, but I can't say the word guerrilla anymore. It's guerrilla, because that's all I fucking hear for the last 60 hours. There's another group of legendary guerrillas who fought a battle in 1967 and now have been living in the mountains as outcasts ever since, and you're kind of luring them back into working. So there are interesting hooks, and you're just provided with nothing to latch onto in terms of meaningful characters or meaningful arcs, which, interestingly, Chris, was the complete and utter opposite feeling of what I had when playing the other game that I finished this week.
Okay. Fucking racking up. Okay, not that you finished Far Cry 6, but you're close. But
oh yes, good distinction.
But I believe last week you finished a game.
I finished Early World last week. Yeah, but that's that was 6 to 8 hours I think in total.
Yeah, fair.
with some messing around.
Yeah. So, okay. So what did you finish this week?
I finished Cyberpunk this week, which
hell. So you fucking completely leapfrogged Jamie and myself.
yeah, Jonesy, and
Yeah. And that's good because the patch fucking arrived and everything, right?
well, it's some you could argue that's bad. Like, what are the fucking chances that I literally finish Cyberpunk the week that the new patch comes out? And like that patch might have benefited me. I might have had a better experience with that game. But I started it back in when was it? December?
Yeah, I
think
so.
So it was high time that I got to finishing it. And
Yeah.
God, let me.
I'm not going to say yeah. I mean, I've fucking had it since December.
Well, okay, for me, maybe let's say like it was high time I got to finishing it.
Yeah.
And I will say it was interesting playing two. And look, they don't aspire to be the same thing. I'm not suggesting that they do or that they should, but it was interesting playing two first-person open-world action-adventure games simultaneously and seeing where they bored me or disappointed me or let me down, and where I was driven to keep pushing forward. And that point or that observation you made about Far Cry, where you reach the point where you're not interested in the open world trappings, you're not interested in the side content, you just want to mainline the narrative or at least certain narrative arcs. Exactly what happened to me with Cyberpunk, except I was enjoying myself. And like, hey, Cyberpunk haters, cover your ears. I'm not going to talk about the quality of that game on a technical level. I'm not going to talk about the console experience. If you played that game a year ago and got burnt out, I'm not going to convince you were wrong. All I'm going to say is there were narrative elements for me within Cyberpunk that really, really worked and gave me the opposite of the Far Cry feeling, where a mission would finish and the first thing I wanted to do was open up that quest log or the journal, whatever it's called, and be like, what's the next step?
Yeah.
And honestly, a lot of it was to do with characters. I think that game has a fantastic sort of rogues gallery of great characters that get fleshed out in really interesting ways, and so many of them are interesting and conflicted and difficult and unreliable and zany in their own ways, but still kind of grounded in the way that I could kind of really get into. And whether you're pursuing a romance lead or whether there's some sequences towards the end of the game that I don't really want to get too deep into because it might spoil stuff, but it leans further into how Johnny Silverhand's history and his past life are kind of tying into V's now present life. And at the whole time, you've got this kind of interesting, not mystery, but this interesting sort of almost ticking time bomb at the middle of the plot that every time you finish a new side quest arc, you're like, actually, I'm still waiting to go back to the whole central narrative, the reason we're here to begin with, and find out how it all pays off.
Yeah.
So yeah, I found that quite engaging, to be honest, that last sort of like 8 to 10 hour stint of just getting that game done. I quite enjoyed myself, I can't lie.
I kind of feel like we've been so kind of like up and down on Cyberpunk as a kind of like podcast. Like we've never been out and out like negative about it, because as I'm sure you've just experienced, like there's nothing to be out and out negative about per se, unless you were one of the unlucky people to kind of like really be affected by those bugs.
Yeah, of course.
But like there is something to Cyberpunk, and that just kind of makes the patch a little bit more interesting, a little bit more enticing. We'll talk about it after the catch up.
Yeah,
so that
for sure.
Stick
stick
around for that.
Oh yeah, I don't want to spoil anything, but like there were, especially in the side quests kind of side of things, there were arcs there and characters there that I just think there's some phenomenal writing and some phenomenal quest design to be found in small pockets. I was a little bit disappointed in the way the main story finished once everything had reconvened and it was time to start implementing some of the choices I'd made or relationships I'd built into the story. Offer me basically a pretty upfront choice of endings, even though you never know exactly how it's going to go. You have a choice of how you want to approach the final series of events in that game, and a very clear point of no return is offered to you. And I wasn't wowed by any of that. It was, if anything, it felt a little bit inconsequential, given just how dramatic V's chase for or fight for his life is up to that point. When it ends, you're kind of like, that was it? That was all they had to do? Okay, weird.
Could have just done that.
Yeah.
That's the problem that Hollywood kind of falls into a lot of the time, isn't it? Where it's like, the solution could very easily be A to B, but then, because then you wouldn't have a movie, or in this case you wouldn't have a game, it's very much like, well, you got to go to A to B to C to D to land up at, like I said, so.
Yeah, exactly. And hey, some of those letters along the way, during that alphabet of a journey were worth the price of admission, which is cheaper than ever. So,
fuck yeah.
So yeah,
we'll get into it though. Like,
I'd love to do like a Cyberpunk spoiler cast one day. I know that's never been less relevant because that game is over a year old now. As crazy as that is to say out loud.
We've also covered it like ad nauseum.
I know, but it's just that I'm late to the party, and there's some cool stuff in there. It's not a great game overall, but there's some really cool stuff in there.
Yeah, maybe what we should do is like collate everything we've said about Cyberpunk on the podcast and just like release this is how, like TV
like
shows
a
used to
mega
do that, isn't it?
compilation
Like anthology, like clip shows.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
We probably racked up a solid like 7 hours, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah.
I feel like on those first podcasts after it came out, that we had solid 1 to 2 hour long discussions just about the game. So.
Oh, 100%. But yeah, Jamie, like those are two pretty fucking solid games. I wish I could say that I've been playing anything as interesting.
Okay, what have you been playing?
I mean, okay, so interesting is I have been playing Sifu, but I've not had a lot of time on my hands. So I only managed to play Sifu like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. Played the club again.
Okay. Got your ass kicked.
Yes. Actually went to back to the first one to try and lower my age in clearing that level, which I think I got to like age 23 as like my best kind of run. Did the club, got to the last dude. He's fucking very difficult.
Yeah.
But I think I can finish it. It's a game that I do want to kind of take care of, and it does seem that once you get over that hump of that second stage, it does kind of like flow a lot easier.
Yeah.
Then of course you could do there's a hidden ending where once you beat the game one time, you can play it again, and then you can actually spare each and every boss.
Oh, interesting. Okay, that's a cool twist.
And then that kind of like unlocks a different kind of ending. But I've also kind of been delving back just a little bit back into Vampire Survivors.
Okay, yeah.
Heaven help me, every time there's an upgrade, a patch or whatever, and they're like, oh, there's 2 new upgrades and another weapon evolution, I just kind of like, I need to see it.
Yeah, no, I get you. I felt the same way every patch so far. Even if, like, I feel like once you kind of, jump that hurdle the first time in terms of getting towards the end game and starting to understand evolutions, especially when your persistent upgrades are in a good place, that game kind of plays itself no matter what you do.
Yeah, exactly. Like there was one run, so the latest weapon evolution is with the lightning ring.
Okay.
So it's like, yeah, okay, cool. And yeah, when you get to the point that I am at, it's like whenever they introduce something new, you just have to do one run, basically, to see it. Because that's how it is. But in this run, each and every single one of my weapons was an evolution.
Wow. Okay, that's
pretty good. It was just like, it was just kind of like stand in the corner and wait.
Yeah,
and that's
literally.
And wait until it goes to 30 minutes, and then it's like, boom, the Reaper comes, takes care of you.
Yeah, you die immediately.
Yeah, but I literally think that's maybe like the best £2 I've spent in gaming in a very long time.
Oh yeah, like bang for your buck, Vampire Survivors is still top notch. Like that's still an easy recommendation for anyone that's even remotely curious about what that game is.
Hell yeah,
which is cool. And hey, like what one thing we can say, which not that we necessarily need to appease any of the audience about what we've been playing and what we're going to be talking about, but we will have impressions and discussions about Horizon this time next week, and hopefully Elden Ring the week after that. So,
oh, dude, I don't even know, right? Because,
what do you mean?
No, like I just want to play the game. I wonder if the week that Elden Ring, so it comes out on the Friday, which is fine.
Yes. So,
but then again, sometimes we only start recording the podcast at midnight, and if that's the case on a Thursday, then I might have to say, sorry guys, just fucking record on your own. So,
I'm gonna go ahead and say it, Chris. I'm not afraid to say this in front of our audience. If you don't record the podcast because Elden Ring comes out like while we're recording, you a bitch.
Can I be on the podcast but playing the game?
Yes, I will accept that as like a middle ground, if you will.
Although
you have to feed in lines of live commentary about what you're doing and how much you're enjoying yourself while you're doing it.
Oh yeah, it'll be me like fucking swearing at the
Yeah, basically. Every death you have to come back and contribute to the podcast for another 5 minutes, then you get to go back to playing it.
Yeah. But have you seen how the subreddit, the Elden Ring subreddit, is kind of like imploding on itself? I
have not. What is it imploding with? Spoilers or excitement?
No, well, So there are the game in its entirety effectively is leaked, so there are major spoilers. But
Yes, it's in the wild.
effectively, Elden Ring subredditors are just kind of trying their hardest not to die before Elden Ring.
Oh, I did see this. I saw someone
Yeah.
take a screenshot of one of the posts.
It's just kind of like hyper sad, but I'm kind of all for it. I think it's really funny. But
Yeah.
man, I'm too hyped for that game, Jen.
It's awesome. It's genuine, and like I don't want to put words in your mouth with regards to Elden Ring, but what I was looking at, sort of how excited I am for Horizon, and I've got it preloaded and I'm ready to go. Maybe tonight or tomorrow, depending on how things work out with work. But I did this weird thing, and Chris, you might have to remind me if like I'm just forgetting something. But I went through my sort of video game diary that I keep because I'm a loser, and looked at everything I played that was a new release in 2021, and I don't think a single game released in the entirety of the calendar year last year that I was actually like balls to the wall hyped for. Like there were a number of things
What was the last game that you were like?
This is the thing. So I'm looking through, like, when I look through everything I played in 2021, like I've got the list up in front of me, and like going in reverse order, like I was looking forward to things like Halo Infinite, Forza Horizon 5, you know, like I guess Back for Blood and Guardians, Kena, Deathloop, Call of Duty. I didn't even know, like Ratchet and Clank, that was cool. Mass Effect, Returnal. Like, there was lots of stuff that I was like, yeah, cool, I'm looking forward to that. But there was nothing that I was, like, I hyped to the point where it was draining the energy from my body about. And I'm getting there with some of the titles that are coming out this year. And that's really cool to be able to say. Like, I think Jonesy kind of got there with Dying Light. With me and Jonesy are both there or thereabouts with Horizon. You're more than there. You're beyond there with Elden Ring. And that's,
I'm beyond the point of no return. It's ridiculous.
That's jazzed.
To the point where, like, I know what's going to happen. I'm going to load up the game, and then I'm just going to be crippled because I'm going to be like, I don't know what to do. I'm going to be like frozen in front of the computer, in front of my monitor. Because I'll be like, what starting class do I go for? I don't know because I want to do them all. Do you know what I mean?
I remember my first night playing Red Dead Redemption 2. I did the thing where I started it about midnight and played for 2 or 3 hours. Genuinely, it was like a hive dream where I wasn't really sure like what was going on, and like I wasn't really paying attention, and to the point where I woke up in the morning the next day with my brain back in place and everything functioning on the way it's meant to be, and I genuinely reconsidered replaying that 2 to 3 hours for a better perspective on what had actually happened, because it didn't feel real. It felt like an out of body experience.
To be fair, the like fucking intro of Red Dead does kind of like it should kind of happens quite quickly.
Yes,
like narrative wise, and you've got to be like, okay, what? Okay,
especially because there's always an adjustment period with Rockstar when it comes to the weight of those controls. Like it's not just it's always a bit weird, like getting used to that momentum almost.
But what, like, genuine question though, what was the last game that you were? Was it probably Red Dead?
No, there must have been something in 2019 or 2020. The way I thought to evaluate it while you were just talking there is that what was the last game I would have booked time off work for? And like there were some games that I was excited about that I just mentioned in 2021. I don't know which of them I would have taken a
Last
year.
of Us Part 2 was in 2020.
Yeah, like look, I'm looking at 2020 now. The launch of the PS5 with Spider-Man, I would have taken time off for that.
For me it would have been Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Last of Us, maybe Ghost of Tsushima. Like I ended up getting quite hyped for that. Doom Eternal, I was extremely hyped for. Cyberpunk is one where again, like
I
remember because when you might remember, but when Cyberpunk came out, I had a lot of shit going on, and I ended up not having time for that game. But if I had had a stable job at that point and had time for it and could kind of organise my affairs in a slightly more efficient way, I probably would have been hyped and taken time off work.
I'll tell you what,
2021,
2020 is a fucking cracking year. I'm looking like Dreams, Crusader Kings 3, Valorant, like Yakuza Like a Dragon, Genshin Impact, like
some cool shit.
Yeah.
And like, hey, like I don't want to slag off 2021. I think it became clear when it came to the Game Awards and our end of the year wrap up, and everyone else discussing everything at the end of 2021, there were some fucking baller games that came out that year, and I loved some of the titles I played last year. There was just nothing that going into it I'd have been like, I have to take a week off work to see everything that Returnal has to offer. I wouldn't have done that. I'd have been pleasantly surprised by, Guardians of the Galaxy was way better than I ever thought it was going to be. I wouldn't have taken that week off work for it, though. Deathloop, The Artful Escape,
Yeah, it's almost like you stumble into good games rather than, like, teeing them up in your mind.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it's 2020. I think, seeing as Cyberpunk launched at the end of 2020, that is probably the last one that I was, like, the most hyped for.
Yeah, that was a big deal.
Yeah, it was quite a big deal, regardless of the outcome. Like, the lead up to it was kind of fucking super intense. They had all these Night City wires and everyone announcing their kind of, like, collabs from, like, sneakers to cell phones and this, that, the other. It's just like, what the fuck is going on?
But
Jonesy bought a fucking chair.
He did. But like the thing is, like, I expect most of these games to get delayed, but as we discussed when we did our sort of look forward for the year and our preview for the year, there are still a number of candidates that potentially come out in 2022 that would mean that this year would have 2, 3, 4 of those kind of games per person, no matter what you're into. So
yeah, it's kind of crazy.
It's rad.
But yeah, like speaking about Cyberpunk, let's fucking jump into the patch then, shall we?
Let's do it, yeah.
Because patch 1.5 was kind of shown off in a bit of a live stream and dropped like then and there. And it brought the next gen. This was their next gen patch saying, hey, it's now good for PS5 and Xbox Series X and S. Like built for that rather than just kind of like an up-resed version of things.
Yes.
And that came part of a more major patch 1.5 with a number of changes across all versions of the game. Interestingly enough, some of those versions are not some of the fixes were not available on last gen. Just because they couldn't kind of like compute them or some shit like that.
Which, again, like, not to sound like a snob, but sometimes that's encouraging when it's like, okay, they are sitting down and finding ways to leverage the firepower that they didn't have before to make this game better. And I'm not, for clarification, I'm not in favour of patches leaving players behind based on generational leaps, especially when that hardware is still so hard to get. I actually think that's a bad move and a negative thing overall, but it is also somewhat encouraging for the fact that we might ultimately be working towards a version of Cyberpunk 2077 that is the game it was meant to be, even if it leaves people behind, which is a bummer. That shouldn't happen, but yeah.
Well, anyway, patch 1.5 also adds loads of fixes and like squashes bugs, blah, 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 but also weird stuff like completely reworking perk trees, reworking the driving system.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot in here. They've also added like some more cosmetic stuff, like being able to change your artificial appearance in any mirror that you go to, or the opportunity to buy apartments, which everyone thought would have been in the game. So yes, they're kind of catching up with their original vision of not just what they kind of promised, but also what people kind of built it up to be in their heads. Still by no means what it was sold as. There's still kind of a lot of things not great about it, but there is something about it that's like, worthy, I would say, of maybe revisiting. And what's interesting is this is the best kind of thing to see, right? They are going, how can I put this? They're kind of backing themselves, right?
Right.
They're saying, we've done a good job. Here, they're offering a 5-hour free trial, right? So you download the game, you can play the first 5 hours, and then after 5 hours, what happens is you can have the opportunity to buy the game. If you buy the game, your progress carries over.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like I'm the fucking saying is escaping my fucking brain now.
Putting their money where their mouth is, or
boom, there we go. Yeah, exactly that. Exactly.
Okay,
Putting their money where their mouth is. They say, they are so confident in what they've done, and it's kind of nice to see. It's always good to see a redemption arc. It's always fun to see people fall from grace, but it's also fun to see redemption arcs.
Yes, agreed.
And beyond that, like, okay, did they really need to do this? Because they sold fucking... I feel like if you were a gamer, you essentially bought this game by how much money they made. but they are offering it with 50% off currently. I'm sounding like a bit of a shill here, but it's just,
Yeah.
it's just the fucking facts, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, like on Steam and the various online stores, that's 50% off because I think they just want to get it in people's hands.
I
right?
agree.
I think they're a lot more kind of like proud of the state that this game is in, obviously, than when it launched. And I think they just want people to kind of give them another chance.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think that you kind of hit the nail on the head where, as obvious as it sounds to say, patch 1.5 is very much exactly that. It's a patch. It's not
patch, yeah.
it's
not 2.0.
No, and exactly. And anyone expecting a 2.0-esque jump, that something might have dramatically changed, or that someone who fundamentally disliked some of the elements of Cyberpunk 2077 is going to get things here that they didn't get before. That's not what we're talking about. We're just talking about slight tweaking and alterations of certain systems, revampings or reworkings of others, and cosmetic additions over the top, which, one thing I will say in their live streams, they keep referring to small additions as DLCs, and it's like, come on, dude, like, don't give yourself a pat on the back. You let me, like, change the colour scheme of my apartment. It's not DLC. It's something that could have, and most people think should have been in the game from the beginning.
Yeah, but hold on, because that's kind of the language that they were using with The Witcher 3. Where
Yeah,
like,
I know, but I
it's
just don't like that language. I know they want to be
but-
the company that makes a distinction between DLC and expansions. I get it, but yeah.
All right. Like, as soon as they add in horse armor, then we can start talking. All right.
Agreed. Well, yeah, as long as they don't charge for it, which fucking hell, thank God they haven't tried any bullshit on that front yet. But we'll see.
Oh, they'd be crucified if they were that kind of silly. But yeah, speaking to you on WhatsApp when it dropped, you made an interesting kind of prediction as to where Cyberpunk goes from here.
Yeah, well, it kind of follows on from the point that you ended on, right? Which is that this feels, and it's appropriate that the next-gen version support comes out with alongside this patch, like the foundation has been laid for where CD Projekt Red are happy to lay down and say, okay, this feels like a solid level to say Cyberpunk is at its core in a strong enough position to, shout about from the rooftops again. We're happy to go back out there. We're putting it on new consoles. We've got a trial, like you said. It's on sale, like you said. We want as many people to come in as possible, and as many people to try and, whether they're reappraising opinions that they formed in the early stages of that game, or opinions that were formed by other people's opinions in the early stages of the game, which happened to a lot of people, just, come in and try it. And see for yourself that there's more than meets the eye to this. It's not going to be a bug-free experience. It's not dramatically different, but we can promise you, in 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to have a better experience than you might have been led to believe you were going to. And I think if they're successful in that, and they start to build out a solid core player base, which, hey, having this game on sale for $19.99 with transfer, save progress, they'll be transferred following a 5-hour free trial, which will probably get its hooks into some people. Yeah. What you're also doing is you're laying a fantastic groundwork and a player base for when they do launch the paid expansions that they've talked about multiple times now. There will be paid story DLC for Cyberpunk, and as we've seen many, many times before, often in like live service games, we talked about Destiny 2, the Division 2, being on sale for like $1.99 the week before the New York expansion came out. I'm not suggesting this is quite like that, but there will be people within CD Projekt Red that are like, hey, we're going to have paid DLC coming out inside, let's say, the next 9 to 12 months. The more people we have that are potential customers, the better off we are. Because the other thing they benefit from that, and again, not to sound too cynical, is that when that DLC releases, especially if the game fundamentally is in a solid state, outlets will take that take that DLC, and they'll review it as a standalone piece of content. They'll review it for what it is. Yeah. And so if a paid DLC, a bit of story DLC, comes out for Cyberpunk, and the outlets of the world, no matter how much attention you pay to them, start giving it 9s out of 10s because it's amazingly well written and it's, a reminder of the high notes of The Witcher 3 as an example, then all of a sudden you've got a piece of DLC floating around that is being hailed as one of the best pieces of narrative content of the year, and the only thing between you and playing it is this incredibly cheap version of Cyberpunk that's actually better than it's ever been. All of a sudden, you make quite a convincing argument for the entire package around the Cyberpunk thing, which is, again, I think that's how the reappraisal of Cyberpunk going forward in the coming years begins. These are the baby steps that we're seeing now. It shouldn't have taken them fucking, whatever it's been, 14 months plus to get to a point where the groundwork has been laid down. It's taken far too long. Jason Schreier already made a joke where he basically, when this patch was announced and the game was released on next-gen consoles, he pointed to a quote from one of his articles where he had said that internally, certain CD Projekt Red employees had talked about when they thought the game should have come out if they'd had all the time in the world, and that date was 2022. So there is a certain irony about it all sort of coming together in an acceptable state now. And
you'd imagine if that happened, that actually the game would be in a better state than what it is in 1.5.
Yes.
Because they wouldn't have had to kind of like put out the PR fires and what have you.
Literally, yeah. It's probably harder. It's harder putting out an active, house fire rather, as opposed to dealing with it while it's still kind of relatively contained.
Yeah.
And look, you've got to said it yourself. Like, it's easy to be cynical about this, and I've seen a lot of people already sharing, stupid tweets where it's like, Cyberpunk's been fixed, eh? And then sharing like a 5-second video of a bug. It's like, well, that's not really the point anymore. And I think sometimes it's like, as gamers, we always want the best of both worlds, but we can't have it both ways. And in a week where No Man's Sky announced another patch and another update, it's like, fucking hell, they're just not stopping. And Sean Murray came out and was like, yeah, we got a long way to go, motherfuckers. Like, and everyone is now unanimously praising them. I know some people still feel burnt about everything Cyberpunk related because there was so much hype going into it. But fundamentally, every indication so far is that CD Projekt Red are going to stick with this game and subsequently stick with those customers, assuming they didn't refund where they had the opportunity to. And like, I'm not trying to give them a free pass, but that's about as much as we can hope for in the meantime. And there were some people, I don't remember if anyone on this podcast, maybe Jonesy came down at it this way, but I remember some people were like, oh, they're just going to ditch it. It's too on fire. It's too much. They're not actually going to support this game. They're not going to fix it. They're going to very quietly give up on it and move on to The Witcher 4 or whatever fucking game they make next. And that hasn't happened. And it still continues to not look like that's going to happen anytime soon. So, yeah.
Well, I still think it's a strong property, right? Like, there is still a draw, but yeah, let's see if this works for them. I hope it does, because there are very cool elements in that Cyberpunk game, like we've always said. And I think smart to give a free 5-hour trial, because I would say, I don't know, maybe I'm like just under halfway through the game, but I would say the first 5 hours are particularly strong in terms of narrative on Cyberpunk. So I think that's smart. Like, you give people that free taste on, like, infiltrating Arasaka Tower and everything that happens then. You're just like, that's pretty cool. People can get their teeth sunk into that quite nicely.
I agree.
It's interesting though. When it came out, it's a shame. So you finished this game before the patch dropped. Correct.
Yep.
Are you tempted to kind of jump in and maybe just fuck around in the open world for a bit just to see?
Do you want to know how close it got? I opened GOG on my PC, and I was staring at the
pack,
originally thought
patch install,
and because I originally thought I was going to uninstall Cyberpunk. I was going to free up some fucking space on my machine, and I looked at how big the download was, and it was like 90 gigs or something like that. It was
90 gigs for you.
For some reason, it was massive. Again, I'm not sure what that was.
I think it was like 49 gigs for me.
Maybe it was. Maybe I'm just fucking imagining things. Maybe it was 40 or 50. But I just remember looking at it and I was like thinking, right, it's either this massive download and then maybe play it again to see what I can notice in half an hour, or it's moving on with my life. And I chose the latter.
Fair. Again, I don't blame you.
Like we said, Cyberpunk has cool things to offer, and I'd say now is as good a time as any to try out a free trial and see what you think. This is not sponsored. This isn't one of those use code SuperShow for 10% off at checkout. Brought to you by CD Projekt Red. But like, legitimately, like, there are some great quests. When I was talking to you and Jonesy, I kept bringing up the Bloody Baron as an example of The Witcher 3 was sometimes at its best when it went off the beaten track, let the main quest, the main narrative hooks, no matter how urgent they might have seemed at one point in time, kind of fall by the wayside because, hey, we've got some really interesting characters or concepts or ideas that we can follow through with over here. And if you allow yourself to be distracted by those hooks and indulge in those character arcs and those side quests, there's some great stuff to be seen, I think, in Cyberpunk. Not all of it, clings together in an amazing way, but fantastic pockets of stories and writing and gameplay in there to be found.
Yeah, I'm in a kind of a weird position because So I've downloaded 1.5. I haven't obviously had time to play it, and I don't know if I will with Elden Ring dropping next week. But the intention is there. But I'm in this weird position where I want to go in, I want to try it, I want to see what the changes are. I want to just experience some more of Cyberpunk. But at the same time, I just don't think I'm that fussed to finish it.
That's fair enough.
Yeah, which is kind of like...
I can tell you something for free. If I told you the ending I got, if I explained it to you, you would feel almost less urgency to go back to that game rather than more.
Yeah, fair. But yeah, man, Cyberpunk, what a interesting thing. Who would have thought that we'd actually get to this point?
I mean, I don't know. Like,
Jonesy must be fucking rocking it, because he was the one most of all saying like, no, I'm putting it on ice until the next gen patch comes out, blah blah blah. Let's see if he comes back next week and has backed it up.
I was gonna say, and the next gen patch comes out between Dying Light and Horizon. He must be fucking swearing at God right now, just being like, you motherfucker.
Oh man, what are the chances do you think he comes in next week and says he actually finished Dying Light?
0
or Horizon?
0. I think it comes
0 to both of them.
Yeah, I think he comes in next week. This is my prediction. I hope he doesn't hear this, because then he'll intentionally divert from my prediction, and that's a scummy thing to do. Please, Jonesy, be an honourable man, do the right thing. Stick true to your gut. I think he's not going to have played any more. Okay, he's got the difficult thing, right, because he's not here this week, which means he gets to catch up on 2 weeks of stuff, which means anything he's done in the 7 days prior to this will count. So I think I think he will have touched Dying Light and Sifu in that respect, but I think he will also, when he's back from holiday, when he's back from Ukraine, he will play some Horizon, but I also think he will make some time, not a significant amount, but some time to test Cyberpunk, because I think, one, he's genuinely curious, and I think, two, it would be an interesting thing to share on the podcast, which will lead to this weird amalgamation where he's going to come back. He'll probably have watched 17 movies, most of them shit, knowing his taste. And I don't know where he finds or why he finds the time for them. But he'll come back and be like, oh yeah, watch the new Space Jam. Something ridiculous like that. And he'll also have played half an hour to an hour of Cyberpunk post-patch, the first 3 hours of Horizon, and nothing since the week just gone on Dying Light or Sifu. There you go. Official prediction in the books. Lock it in. 2-1 odds. Bets in.
Yeah. I don't think he would have finished Sifu. I don't think he would have finished Dying Light.
Okay, agreed. There's a but coming here. You're thinking about it.
I'm just thinking, if he had access to Horizon Zero Dawn from like midnight tonight, like launch, in other words, I could imagine a scenario where he would finish it in time. You think
Jones is going to play 30 odd hours of Horizon in the next week?
But we know that he's not.
He can't. Right? Okay. Yeah.
He can't. He physically can't, because he's in the Ukraine and Putin doesn't want him to play Horizon. Because,
exactly. Yeah.
Guess what? It's got, or at least the prequel had West in the title. So.
Yeah. Also, this is too progressive. Female protagonists. Putin's not about that life. So.
Yeah. But yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be fucking interesting. I would definitely endeavor to try out Cyberpunk. To kind of beat that dead horse a little bit more and what we're talking about it. But who knows? Let's see. Tune in this time next week. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. I don't know. It's really tough for me, because I wanted to finish Sekiro before Elden Ring came out, but then obviously shit's been happening in my life. Topsy-turvy. I haven't had time. I could potentially. I've still got a week.
Are you one stream away from finishing it? Is that right? Is that fair?
Dude, I mean, come on. It depends.
If luck was on your side.
If luck was on my side, it could be one stream to finish it.
Okay.
Not necessarily, because I've got Demon of Hatred and I've got Sword Saint Ishin. Sword Saint Ishin is the final boss.
Yeah.
And Demon of Hatred is the optional end boss.
Gotcha.
So, if I want to see the end of the game, I just have to kill one of them, which is Ishin. But Ishin is super fucking hard with 4 phases. I stream for about 2 hours. Is it possible? Potentially. I know the last time that I tried him on stream with a delayed audio feed, so I had to take off my headphones and then not have any audio cues. I know I got him to his second phase.
Right.
I don't know if I got him to his third phase, but I got him to his second phase. So it's not out of the realm of possibility, but it's also like fucking it's an uphill battle, that's for sure.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. It doesn't seem likely. You know?
Yeah, and of course, like I don't know. Like I'm sure you've got plenty. In fact, in some cases, I know you have a hell of a lot on in the next week to 2 weeks before Elden Ring even comes out. So,
yeah, it's
like,
it's insane. Like,
yeah,
in fact, Monday night I probably won't even be in London.
yep.
I know all of Tuesday I won't be in London. I'll be in Milton Keynes for those interested.
Any MK Dons fans out there, holler.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so I've got some like work travel stuff to do. There's some home stuff that I've got to kind of deal with as well. Like it's just like
It's a lot.
It's too much. Fuck
But
it.
there is a
shrug it off.
Yeah, and if you ignore the elephant in the room, which is, are you going to be able to finish Sekiro or not? It might, some of these things at least, might all clear up, or at least become a bit less complicated, just in time for Elden Ring, depending on how lucky you are.
Yeah, yeah, maybe. But yeah, and then when Elden Ring comes out, like fucking all bets are off. Don't count on me for anything except for weekly Elden Ring chatter.
I mean,
work it into its own little segment.
Do I dare remind you the last time you made threats such as these on this podcast, and which game it was for? Do you remember? Yeah, it was Cyberpunk. In fact, one of the identical threats you made for Cyberpunk, which was that if the podcast on the evening of the Thursday went on too long or crossed past the midnight mark, then you would also not be on the podcast because you'd be playing that game.
And to quote Alex Jones, I jump in it.
Yeah,
I did quite heavily, and luckily didn't come out too unscathed.
Now we've got the title for this podcast, right? Which is Elden Ring the new Cyberpunk 2077? Question mark, exclamation mark, question mark, exclamation mark. Brackets 18 plus.
And number 6 will shock you, Jamie.
Yeah. Hey, it will. Brackets TikTok compilation.
Gone wild.
Gone wild. Any emojis maybe we can sneak in there?
Oh yeah, like the fucking the eggplant, the squirt.
Oof. I mean, to be fair,
peach.
I think when it comes to the first podcast where we can talk about Elden Ring, those emojis sound quite appropriate anyway. Your eggplant will be doing something when you're playing that game.
My eggplant will do something. You know how Jonesy was like, oh, well, let's do a jingle. My jingle will just be the fucking anime. Wow.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. And then Mum get the camera.
Yeah. Anyway. But look, Jamie, if I don't manage to play or finish Sekiro, I'm not... I'd feel okay about it because there's always in the back of my head, I could say to myself, it's okay because I'm not a failure. Okay. I just didn't finish Sekiro because of Halo.
Yes, exactly. When in doubt, any of life's problems or any of life's failures, blame it on Halo?
Blame it on Halo, apparently, because that's what EA did when they acknowledged that Battlefield 2042's failures were kind of mainly down to Halo shadow dropping like when it did.
Yeah.
I mean, like, this is some mental fucking gymnastics going on here.
Yeah, literally. It is the definition of mental gymnastics.
Yeah. Yeah. You know when I say, like, I see the world in memes, and this is fucking the meme. I think I've said it before for multiple things. I think it's maybe the third week in a row that I'm going to say it, just for a different company. But it is literally the meme of the guy sticking a stick in the spokes of his bicycle, falling over, and then blaming someone else.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, literally. Especially when you look at the nature of the actual comparison that EA made between the two games and why Halo might have been the fault of, like, the Battlefield 2's problems. It literally makes no sense. It's completely backwards. It's like doing really badly at your homework at school and blaming your bad test result on the smartest person in the class. Like, you're talking about two things that at no point did they ever intersect in any way, shape, or form. But you're just saying, well, he did so well, it makes me look bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Hang on. That's not my fault. He did... Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also like, if your game wasn't broken, if your game actually worked, then that's not the conversation that you'd be having now anyway.
Yes, exactly.
You know, it's amazing, actually. But yes, so EA has kind of acknowledged the game's quote-unquote disappointing launch. I read some fucking mental statistic before the podcast that like concurrent players are down to like the thousands on that game.
Yeah.
Like Battlefield 5 has way more concurrence than 2042.
I know
Okay.
someone who has gone back to Battlefield 5 since the launch of 2042.
I'm sure we all do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of mad. But they had like a bunch of town hall meetings to kind of talk about what went wrong and, you know, this, that, the other. I can tell you what went wrong. You released the game too early because you're EA and you got to hit those yearly kind of targets, and fucking hell, it's mental.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, so quote unquote, our team's working from home for nearly 2 years, and unanticipated performance issues only became evident once the game was played at scale, apparently.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which-
So the game had to be played at scale for you to know that your team was working at home for nearly 2 years on a
Yeah.
buggy game that wasn't fit for release. Like, I don't think so.
Also, dude, like, I know stress testing is difficult. I know live games are very different once they actually go live. But the idea of EA sitting around saying that the problems that Battlefield, a game in the Battlefield series had, were unprecedented because they didn't know what would happen once the game was played at scale. Battlefield games are only played at scale. It's one of the biggest FPS franchises on planet Earth. You promoted the fucking shit out of it. Like,
Made by a company, a publisher, not publisher, a dev, who like, they make these fucking games. That's their MO.
they only deal in scale, so you can't blame scale on the problems.
Yeah. It gets even better because fucking Andrew Wilson continued to say, like, he admitted that some of the design, quote unquote, some of the design choices we made with the game also did not resonate with everyone in our community.
Yeah.
I mean, again, dude, like, they've released how many Battlefields? They know what works, they know what doesn't work. Like, yeah, all for kind of like experimentation and, you know, trying to swap things out for stuff that works and stuff that doesn't work. You know, and there are some kind of like unique aspects to Battlefield 2042 for sure. The weather system, chief among them. But at the same time, like, omissions to like release features.
Yep.
Like, come on, like, what are you fucking doing here? Are you doing here? This is absolutely mental.
It's bonkers, and it's especially bonkers still when you consider that these are high-level and high-ranking employees. In the case of Andrew Wilson, CEO-level employees within EA, standing out there on a partly private, partly public forum and making these sort of radical statements that, in some cases, read as outright lies or misdirections about what went wrong, and, to be more specific, what they did wrong about the launch of one of the biggest games, or what should have been one of the biggest games of last year. And it is one of those fascinating things where, you know, when, and this isn't me talking from recent personal experience, Freddie, like, just to make that perfectly clear, I don't want to get in trouble, but you know when you, like, join a company and you look towards the top of the company and you can see long-time employees just outright doing things wrong or fucking up and making these ridiculous excuses, and they just kind of keep getting away with it, and you kind of got this they can't keep getting away with it mentality about it all. It's fascinating when you see that, like, recreated in a massive multi-billion-dollar video game corporation, you know, on a massive public forum, because it's almost sort of weirdly satiating reminder that this kind of bullshit happens everywhere, and so many people in this industry fake it till they make it and aren't willing to acknowledge when they fuck up and get things wrong. And if they are willing to admit that they fucked up, they have to use this weird redirecting language that blames it on other shit. Like, like how? I don't know why.
An amazing one was EA's chief operating officer Laura Miele.
I'd say like Miele.
Well, according to Miele, the comparison between both games was not favorable because Halo Infinite was a very polished title, whereas Battlefield 2042 contained bugs and wasn't as polished.
I mean, it's mind-boggling, Chris.
Like, the fact that can come out of someone's mouth. Like, oh yeah, our game was not as good because it was compared to another game that, like, was functional. And don't get me wrong, like, Halo Infinite, like, it was pretty polished. Still had its issues. Yeah. Right? But Halo Infinite's not going around blaming anyone else, except for themselves, potentially. But what did Halo Infinite do? They pushed their release date by an entire year. They pushed the fact that they were meant to be a launch title, and they said, "Yeah, it's not ready."
Yep.
And by all means, EA should have done the same with Battlefield 2042 in the state that it released in, But
Yes.
It was the year for Battlefield, and Battlefield needs to come out because that's what EA said.
Yeah.
And they, it's just mad.
The fucked up thing is that, like, we now live in an age where most gamers are extremely aware that the product that ships is not is not necessarily representative of where the product will be in months or years down the line. We understand that live games are a very literal term nowadays, and games grow and evolve and change and hopefully improve over a passage of time. And some of that has kind of changed us in some way, shape or form, where we're now almost more accepting of products that aren't the complete package at launch. It's not a good thing. It's not the way most gamers want it to be, but it's something we've grown to have to accept because it's the nature of the industry, and it's the way that publishers and developers are taking advantage of the technological improvements that allow them to deliver massive patches far easier than they ever could in previous generations. But what we do still want to see, even if we reluctantly accept those circumstances, is we want to see ownership. We want to see ownership taken of mistakes. We want to see people approaching the mistakes they've made the right way. We want to see people making apologies that feel heartfelt. Not apologies where they're wiping away the tears or the money we spent on their fucking broken products, but apologies that, hey, take responsibility for your actions. Take responsibility for the fact that your game was a broken fucking mess. And if you're willing to put your money where your mouth is, do it in a way that is actually putting your money where your mouth is, like Microsoft did with Halo, and delay a game for as long as it needs to be fucking delayed. Because when you force a game out when it's not ready because you want to take advantage and capitalize on those Christmas sales, it needs to hit a certain market at a certain date, and then you come out afterwards and you don't even accept responsibility for the mistakes you make, but instead suggest that the mistakes you made will look worse by someone who did a similar thing better than you. It is an embarrassment of a PR disaster on top of what is already an embarrassment of a video game. And I genuinely think that there are a large proportion of gamers out there, and I might include myself in this, that are more willing than ever to accept that there are extraneous circumstances around game development and game releasing and game publishing and game promotion now more than ever, especially off the back of a pandemic. I get it. Their teams, like Andrew Wilson said, worked on this game from home for nearly 2 years. Not ideal. No one would have been prepared for that when it came to ramping up production on Battlefield 2042. But own the fuck-ups. Own the fuck-ups and make amends for them quietly and quickly, and fucking please don't drag your heels in the process with PR disasters like this.
Oh, but and it gets so much worse, right? When you realize just how much people like Andrew Wilson kind of take home. Right, we did that thing on the top CEOs, and it's just kind of like it's mental. Yeah. Like the people who were working at home for 2 years, toiling, knowing that they've got a piece of product that is not ready to ship. That then the higher ups, the corporates, they say no, you got to ship them. Right,
it's a fantastic.
And they're the
point.
ones earning the big money, and then these poor guys who are toiling through that then release this, and then like let's say the social media managers that need to kind of deal with the backlash of all of this, they're being paid peanuts, which is like the most fucking horrific thing about it. There's I'm finishing up reading a book, Blood, Sweat and Pixels, Press Reset by Jason Schreier. You actually read the book, Jamie.
Yes.
And reading that book and kind of following up with everything that's kind of happening here, and at like Activision Blizzard as well, and you just kind of think to yourself like, fuck, why would anyone want to be in game development at the moment? It just sounds horrific.
No, you make a fantastic point. And again, like I was speaking there on behalf of like players and consumers, but I can't, to follow on from what you just said, I can't imagine what it's like to have been a developer on Battlefield 2042, to have had to change to working from home, even if you didn't necessarily want to, but to have still crunched the same way, to have still raised the same red flags you would have raised to the, especially in QA and departments like that, we're saying this game isn't ready, this is a problem, we don't have time, to constantly be ignored, to have that game come out, and then your CEO comes out and says, our team's working from home for nearly 2 years was one of the reasons it was the way it was. No, Andrew Wilson, you're the fucking reason it was the way it was. Like, fucking, take a look in the mirror and make a better Battlefield game.
Well, he'll take a look in the mirror and you'll just see his handsome, chiseled Chad face, and he'll be like, hell yeah, baby.
He's like, God damn, I've done it again. Give me that fucking bonus, baby.
You bring up a very good point. Like, QA department. What was their QA department playing Halo, and maybe that's why you're blaming Halo? Like
Yeah.
they were like,
Well,
this
no,
game's
like-
fine, guys. There's nothing wrong with it. Were they playing the wrong game? No, they
No.
were playing a broken game, and most definitely they would have done their jobs and due diligence reported that it's not ready. And
Yep.
guess what? Eventually, it goes up the ladder to someone like, fucking Andrew Wilson, who says, "Yeah, launch it.
Yeah.
Press the big red button. Launch. Bam.
Yeah.
Play the trailer."
Yeah. And he goes to the board of directors and he goes to the investors and they're like, should we be worried about this? And he's like, guys, I'm not going to do this right now. And he's like, look at the video game landscape. Never has there been a time in the history of the video game industry where consumers are more accepting of games that are broken at launch. We can fix this game over the course of the next 4 years and it will still be remembered as a hit as long as at some point in time we hit that zenith. We hit that point where we've completed our vision and we finally release the game it was always meant to be. If we get there before the next one comes out, we're fine.
Yeah. Oh, I hope this isn't the start of like a new trend of like
Bro,
hyping up a game, right?
Yeah.
Getting as many people as you can to like jump in, because like the peak concurrence for 2042 like wasn't bad. It was pretty healthy.
A lot of people still own this game, yeah. Fun.
Yeah, right. But then have it be terrible, but then kind of walk away, work on it, come back, and it's almost like a second launch.
Yeah.
Right? Which is effectively what we're seeing with Cyberpunk. Like, that's a very obvious example. Cyberpunk sold like fucking bonkers amounts of money.
Yeah.
Right? And now they're hoping that they're going to cash in again on a second launch of like, hey, it's next gen and we've fixed a lot of the problems,
Mate,
guys. Come check it out.
Exactly. Like, whether we want to admit it or not, us video game players, and sometimes even the press and the media on video games as well, we do have short-term memories. And when it comes to No Man's Sky, when it comes to Rainbow Six Siege, when it comes to Final Fantasy XIV, like, we are far more focused and far more happy to celebrate the fact that these games turned their shit around and got to the point where they needed to be than we are focused on or remain dwelling on the fact that they were fucked up at launch. We forget about that fact far quicker than we talk about the fact that, hey, it's good now, at least.
Yeah, exactly. If this was still ATG, we always used to do at the start of each year, or the end of each year, depending, 6 worrying trends for. So there'll be 6 worrying trends for 2022, and this probably would have been one of them. Like releasing a bad game so that you can have a second launch, which would mean more sales.
Yeah.
Just kind of crazy,
I mean,
man.
mate, we're editors. Imagine if, like, someone like Premiere came out tomorrow and like, hey, don't ask us how, but we've come up with a new feature, which is that, hey, you can continue to edit videos and tweak them and change them after the video's out. Nowhere near as much care gets put into that final draft or that 100%. Final push. When you're checking that video before upload, you're like, even if I do miss a typo, I can change it. This is that, but instead of a YouTube video, it's a video game that costs tens, if not with marketing, hundreds of millions of dollars to make.
Yeah, it's fucking mad. Jamie, you know what else would probably be on that list of worrying trends?
Oh, tell me, Chris.
How about the closure of old e-stores? Because Nintendo is planning to close the Wii U and 3DS stores, with thousands of games set to technically disappear.
Yes, because, of course, we're now entering into the era of sort of digital-only games and games that never got a physical release, which means when these storefronts go and you can no longer purchase these titles, they will effectively vanish from the face of the earth.
Yeah, what do you do? So there's been a large outcry on this. Let's just get into some of the details before we kind of like unravel this, right? So Nintendo put out a statement saying, as of 29th of August 2022, it will no longer be possible to use a Nintendo eShop card to add funds to an account or Nintendo eShop for Wii U or 3DS. However, it will still be possible to redeem download codes until late March 2023, which is obviously kind of like leading into the fact that March 2023 is going to be the last time, or is going to be the moment when they cut off those eShops for the Wii U and the 3DS.
Yeah.
What they did say, though, is that even after late March 2023 and for the foreseeable future, it will still be possible to re-download your games and DLC, receive software updates, and enjoy online play on Wii U and Nintendo 3DS family systems. So it's not as kind of dire as people kind of make it out. Like, as long as you own it, you can still re-download it.
Right.
And in my mind, and I know this is going to be the really unpopular opinion, but I think people are being a little bit harsh on Nintendo on this. Nintendo have never had great policies, granted, and this is not a great one, but they're giving people like almost more than a year's notice.
Yes.
Right?
True.
Saying, hey, this is going to happen. Like, you've got plenty of time to do whatever you need to do. Some of their services, like, for instance, Pokemon Bank is, for instance, that's being more integrated into Pokemon Home.
Mm-hmm.
But again, there is a time limit on it, but they're telling people. And at the end of the day, like, it costs money to keep these shops open.
It does, yeah.
And like, hopefully, they can find a way to take those digital-only games and put them on a different kind of platform in terms of, honoring preservation, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But like, fucking, I'm sorry, get over yourselves. They're giving you the fucking amount of time. If you wanted to buy fucking some indie game on your 3DS, just go and fucking buy it now. Don't complain when the store closes in a year's fucking time.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I get both arguments. I kind of do.
Like I said, Jamie, Nintendo are known for their bad policies and their like backwards thinking, and especially in terms of the online space. But I don't necessarily think that this is one of them.
No, I agree with you in that I think to a certain extent this is a realistic policy. I think that one of the things we're going to have to adjust to when it comes to this sort of big all-digital world we live in now is that these storefronts will go away. The places that, a store that have the ability to sell us these products will go away. At some point, eventually, even the places that allow us to re-download products we own will go away. We might have issues where our ownership of certain products comes into question. These are all we're putting a lot of trust and subsequently a lot of money into companies and storefronts and services that do have, best before dates or use by or sell by dates on them, whether we want to admit it or not. And this is another one of many that are recent stark reminders of that fact. I get it from a video game preservation point of view. No one likes the idea that that many games could, in theory, disappear, and that someone could come back and in the future and be looking to play a certain title or looking to get access to a certain title, and there is no legal way to do it. That's not a fun direction to be moving in as an industry, and it'd be cool if we had better ways of working around that. Like you said, better ways of preserving these titles, better ways of making it possible to play them in the future. But I don't know what the solution to that is, and I don't know who foots the bill for that solution. So
can I say what the solution is?
What is it?
You give people a year to download and buy anything that they want to download or buy from those shops. You close the shop, and then you let them beyond the closure and in the foreseeable future, be able to re-download games and DLC that they previously purchased.
You're appeasing a set of people that have access to a Wii U and a 3DS now, have access to the stores, and know something they want to buy or will want to buy inside the next year. But like, are you cool that in the summer of 2023, someone might get a recommendation for a game that was only ever available on the Wii U or 3DS e-stores, and it's just fundamentally not available? No one new can ever play any of those video games. Thousands of video games, potentially, ever again. Like, are we cool with that?
This is where Nintendo gets foxy.
Okay.
Because it all gets fucking rolled into their Nintendo fucking Plus package, online plus expansion pass bullshit.
No, come on, not to this scale.
I'm joking.
But like, are we cool with that? Again, I don't have good solutions, so the answer can be like, I know it's easy to say yes or no. I don't have the answer. You ain't get the answer, Sway.
In all honesty, we have to be cool with it because that's what it is. And like, will these games disappear forever? You know what? Like, not all of those games that are disappearing are published by Nintendo.
No.
Right? So, hey, guess what? You own the fucking code to that game. Release the fucking code then. If you're the publisher and you're not Nintendo.
Okay. So, but again, yeah.
Like, there are options, but like, do you remember they were saying, they're going to take off the functionality of the online store for the fucking Vita?
Yes, I remember that. And
people all up in arms. So Sony were like, oh, actually, we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
I would love to know what the sales were like on the fucking Vita store.
Again, like I think when we narrow it down and focus on what are the current sales or how long have people got to go back and buy the games they want, I think we kind of miss the arguments that some of the more passionate voices in this community are trying to make at the moment. Which is, it's about the long term, it's about preservation, it's about whether or not these video games will be readily available to people who will want to play them in the future. And when you think about like the games industry over the last 40 years, let's say. If this is a precedent that had been in place much longer, if this stuff had started happening like in the 80s, how many classics would have just been lost to time? And we have to look at a possibility where the video game industry continues to stretch into the future and is as meaningful and as significant in what we're doing now as we consider the history of video games years gone by. Where
Yeah.
it would be a bummer. It would be a bummer if there are games that, for one reason or another, just kind of disappear because of things like this. And again, I want to stress again that it's easy for me to say something like that because I don't have the answers, and it's not my responsibility to come up with them. I don't know what the solution is, and I don't know who pays for that solution. But it would be a bummer.
Complicated question, right? But maybe the only way to find an answer to a complicated question is to present the complication. In which case, if this is something that needs to happen where there is a potentially big consequence for game preservation, maybe it needs to happen in order for an answer to come out rather than an answer to just magically just kind of be thought up of.
Yeah. Like it's kind of like a necessary evil, if you will.
Yeah. And like I don't begrudge Nintendo for doing this. Honestly, I don't. Like, maybe I'm just being a little bit hardline here, but
you're being very corpo cuck. You're being a real bootlicker right now, Chris.
Well, yeah, just call me Andrew Wilson.
I would definitely lick big AW's boots.
Would you?
Big time.
I mean,
yeah,
they would be pristine. They would never have seen like a speck of dirt in their life.
Oh,
I kind of feel that he's one of those people that would probably, like fucking Jabba the Hutt, where he gets like carried around everywhere, and his feet have never touched dirt.
No, and he actually wears new shoes and new socks every single day. So at the end of every day, the shoes and socks that he wore that day get thrown away. Entirely new pair of both going into each and every day.
There was a rapper that did that. Was it P. Diddy?
Maybe. There's one I always remember was that the footballer David Beckham would apparently wear a new pair of pants every day. One, because he was a bit of a germaphobe, and two, because I think he had like an actual deal with Calvin Klein, so he's probably inundated with Calvin Klein underwear and was like, well, yeah, I just wear a new, it's clean underwear, it's new. I just put on new underwear every day. Which doesn't really work. I like to wash clothes after I buy them, just to get them ready.
Do you think he doesn't give a shit that he just like shots in them and he's just like, just chuck them. Who cares?
I love that idea, like David Beckham getting so comfortable with the amount of Calvin Klein's he owns, he's just pissing himself and like just sitting on the couch, like just shitting in his underwear. Like, yeah, I'll throw them away.
Yeah, because they just become like diapers at that point. You just throw them away, right?
And Victoria Beckham's just watching him like, oh my god, what the fuck have I done? I married a bloke who shits himself. I like that.
It's a fun idea. Like that, actually. Yeah. It is a fun idea. You know what else is kind of a fun idea, but I don't know if I could get into it?
Tell me.
It's Lost Ark.
A fun idea, sorry, you say.
Hey, what?
A fun idea you describe it as.
Maybe? Maybe not. I don't know. Like, hey, 1.3 million concurrent users on Steam can't be wrong. Can they?
Yes, they can, Chris.
Wow. Okay. Yes, they can. So, safe to say you're not interested to kind of jump into the Lost Ark boat, which is a ARPG MMO.
It's not that I'm not interested. I think every single time a new MMO arrives with any amount of hype, people like us, Chris, because we've had the bug in the past, we get that little twinkle in our eye where we're like, oh, but what if I do play this?
Yeah, what if this one is for me?
Yeah, and I think I had that with Lost Ark for like maybe less than a day, like a matter of hours before I was like, do you know what? I don't care. It's not that I'm not interested in the ARPG element. I think a MMO that starts to work in more Diablo-like elements into its gameplay actually appeals to me more than lots of MMOs that have come out recently, in fact, or continue to run at this point at present time. I think the issue I have is that One, I just don't want to commit that much time to a single game at the moment. I have enough time keeping up with new releases and the games I actually want to play than feeling like I'm a slave to an MMO, which is not something I want in my life right now. Two, I don't trust its foundations as a free-to-play MMO, especially one that was originally produced in Korea. No disrespect, but I just think there's a track record there that is a little bit suspect that maybe we'll get into. And also, like, it just... At a point in time where the hype is at its peak and the rush and the craze is at its peak, it just doesn't seem like a fun time to try and wrestle with everyone else. Like, I talked to Steph the other day, and I noticed he'd been playing it a lot on Discord in his little sort of status thing. So I asked him about it, and it was like, I haven't been playing it that much. I have to log in and leave it at 5 to make sure I'm in a session by 10. Like, those are the queue times.
Jesus, okay.
Yeah, so I heard that, and I was like...
I didn't realise that. That's mental.
Wait. Yeah, queue times has apparently been a thing for Lost Ark.
Yeah.
Which, hey, you mentioned those concurrents. That's probably why.
Yeah, 1.3 million. Well, you know what 1.3 million gets you, Jamie?
Tell me.
The second highest ever consecutive player count on Steam. Behind only PUBG at 3.2 million. Which, so, like, double. It's fucking mental.
It's in a league of its own.
But what's even kind of crazier is PUBG is a paid title with that highest concurrence, which is like insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the 5th game to pass 1 million, and interestingly enough, in the West, it's published by Amazon.
Yes. Which.
But yeah, you did mention kind of like these like questionable free-to-play tactics, and interestingly enough, there was a viral video of none other than the MMO god himself, the weirdo Asmongold, reacting to someone else's video who kind of did the math, right? And said, if you wanted to get your character to the highest possible level at the game currently, without spending any money and just going through, earning through the game, it would take you 3 years to do that.
Yeah.
And that's excluding any updated content, which would obviously push the goalposts further and further and further.
Right, which is the other thing free-to-play games are very good at doing, right? Is like as soon as they feel like free-to-play gamers or players are encroaching on kind of like the limit or getting too powerful or too meta, then you just move the goalposts.
Yeah, man. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, I don't have time for another games as a service game in my life because I've got Dota and that's all consuming. And then I'm going to get like the fucking open world potentially to beat open worlds in Elden Ring.
Yeah.
Between those two games, Jamie, I'm never going to play another game again in 2022.
No, exactly. Like, we talk about it a lot on this podcast. Anyone who listens to every episode will know that, like, we've got a lot on our plate when it comes to just keeping up with new releases, playing the games we fucking want to play. Like, I still
running
have
a podcast.
Well, that too. We struggle, evidently. 2 of us here this week. Shout out to the Ukraine. But, like, I have games on my backlog from last year that I still haven't played. Like, I open up my Epic Game Store, sort of app or whatever, the program every now and then, and I'm like, look at my library, and I'm like, oh yeah, I completely forgot that at the end of last year I went out and bought, like, Chicory and Inscription and Toem and Death's Door, like, all at once, getting all excited to play them all, and like, haven't touched any of them.
Yeah, dude, yeah. Listen to this, okay? I'm just going to minimize everything on my desktop. And I'm going to tell you the games that are on my desktop, okay?
Okay, I love it. This is fun.
All right. And this isn't even all the games installed on my computer because for some reason on my Games Pass, my Xbox Games Pass, there are games in there that haven't got icons on my desktop, okay?
Oh, weird. Okay. I feel like sometimes they're the only ones on my icons I get is Game Pass tiles.
Okay, so let's see how many of these games I've finished or played, okay? In like, even this year, let's call it, okay? Half-Life Alyx.
Okay. That's the best start we could have asked for. Great, okay, cool.
Well, because I really want to finish it, because it's
you
a
should
great
fucking
game.
finish it. Like, I still can't believe I haven't been able to talk to anyone about that ending.
Oh, I've seen the ending, so you can talk to me about
it. Oh,
it.
okay, cool. It's a good ending, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fucking quality.
It's a fucking great ending.
But I want to play that game. It's a fun game to play. I love VR, but it's just kind of like getting the VR set up going.
I'll excuse that. Yeah, totally.
It's too mental. at least for the time being. Command and Conquer Remastered.
You stream that?
I did stream it, but it's there on my desktop. Mafia Definitive Edition.
Okay, I streamed that. Weirdly enough, that's how far back we're going there.
Was that your last stream?
It was close to it, actually. Yeah, close to it.
Gosh, okay. Then I've got Cyberpunk 2077.
Okay.
Okay. Wolfenstein: The New Order.
Jesus, I didn't even know you'd installed that or like committed to it.
Yeah, I'm about halfway, but like just fell off it. Scavengers, haven't even logged into the game. But
Which one was Scavengers? I can't even remember.
Scavengers was that battle royale set in like the ice thing where it's like part battle royale, but part get the info and exfil.
This is like ringing a weird bell, but I can't recall why I remember it or how closely I looked at it.
Because they
were we gonna play it?
I wanted to play it because they had a weekend where they were trialing like a 1,000 player server.
That rings a bell. That rings a bell.
Yeah,
good PR. That.
All right, something else. Deep Rock Galactic.
I mean, that's just a fun thing to keep installed. I think we only played it with you once, but
exactly. But I had a blast. I mean, the best part of that game was just like hanging out in the bar and chucking beers and playing at the jukebox.
Yeah, dancing.
Call of the Sea.
Okay, I hear good things.
Yeah, I haven't even opened it. Narita Boy, which a game I was really hyped about, but then fell off like because I think I streamed it.
You did stream it. I watched you play, and it was confusing.
Yes,
like weirdly confusing.
Even more so when you're streaming because you're not paying full attention, right?
Yeah, that didn't help.
Okay, then I've got Dota 2 and I've got Apex Legends quality.
You played a lot of both. Fair.
Yeah, Risk of Rain 2, which I have not played in a very long time, but that's like my comfort food game. If I want like a roguelike run, like I'll jump into that. It used to be Dead Cells. I kind of fell off Dead Cells because it's just, you finish with the game every
exactly.
Loop Hero, which is a game that I would like to get back into, but it is one of those time sink kind of games.
Yeah.
For some reason, I still have Dark Souls Remastered on my desktop, even though I've finished it. Chivalry 2.
Yeah, I mean, you liked your time with that game.
I did. Back 4 Blood.
Yep, you liked your time with that game. I'm being very as nice here as I can be. I don't want to make you feel bad about any of your life choices.
Yeah, sure. I got Halo Infinite.
Yeah. I mean, you have played Halo Infinite.
Yeah. I've got Sifu.
Yep. You've played some Sifu. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, like that's all that's on my desktop. So, like, it's just insane. It's insane.
Yes.
Okay.
All of that on your desktop, and you'll catch up this week. You played more Vampire Survivors.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's on the desktop as well. Yeah. Played more Vampire Survivors. And then I've got Sekiro on my fucking PlayStation. I haven't finished Jedi Fallen Order.
Shit! I forgot you were playing that.
Oh,
See, what you're doing is like you're almost giving me a headache just by talking through this, and I avoid this by like I play one game per platform at a time.
Yeah.
And I finish, and I try my darndest to finish it.
But you see, that's what I used to be like. But I think just hanging out with Alex Jones too much is just kind of It's the Jonesy effect, and fair play. Jonesy has moved on from the Jonesy effect, and now I am the emblematic Jonesier.
The thing is, I actually think that the most ideal relationship you can have with games and how long you spend with them probably exists somewhere on the spectrum between where you are and where I am. Where I think sometimes, and I'll admit this, playing things through to completion when I actually don't really want to, like I'm in the trap with Far Cry 6 at the moment, is a bad thing. Like I'm spending time on a game that I should be spending on other games. But I think you probably end up on the other end of the spectrum where maybe, yes, you get to play just about everything you want to as soon as you want to play it. You'll just jump onto a new game or a new thing that's come out and you'll try it. But there are probably also things on your way. It sounds like there are things even on your desktop that you look at and you're like, actually, I didn't get my fill. I wanted to spend more time with that, and then I moved on. I'd love to be one of those people that can move on without necessarily finishing something, but just knows exactly when they're full. It's like meals. Like you're always under-eating or overeating, but like, who are the people who can put their knife and fork down when they're just full? I can't do it.
You see, when I was trying to lose some weight, and I'm sure people will be like, "What? You don't need to lose weight." I do. When I was trying to lose weight a couple of years ago,
that made me laugh. Sorry.
This is true though, dude.
No, but it was the way you like. I'm sure people out there are like, "What? You don't need to lose weight." But yeah,
Humble brag, or like the opposite of a humble brag. I don't know.
sorry, no, I continue there.
A neg brag. I don't know.
Careful.
Yeah, very careful. I had this thing where I did portion control, but the way I did portion control was no matter what I'd have on my plate, or you go out to a restaurant, whatever it is, I would always make sure that I would not finish what was on my plate, because my rationale was this: when you were young, and I guess like times have changed now because parents are a little bit more savvy, but when I was growing up with my parents, it was very much like eat all the food on your plate.
Yes.
And then it doesn't matter like how much or little food was on your plate. It's just like eat all the food on your plate. It's like, I think that kind of fucks you up in a bit.
I had a similar thing.
Yeah, and so I made this very conscious decision. Like, let's say you have, let's just say like a steak, okay? Like, eat the steak, eat the chips, but like leave a bunch of chips and leave like, I don't know, a sixth of your steak left over. Like, start off there. Do you know what I mean?
I can't. No.
It's so hard, Jamie, because it's such a psychological thing, especially if you do it at a restaurant.
But what if you're hungry?
But the point is to train yourself, because you see.
Nah, I can't. No.
It's the question of like, are you actually hungry, or are you hungry because it's been trained into you to just finish whatever's given to you?
If there's a piece of steak on my plate and I want to eat it, then that means I'm hungry. I don't care what the impetus is.
Or have you convinced yourself that you're hungry?
Chris, do I look like someone who has a hard time convincing themselves they're hungry? You're describing my life, my day-to-day existence.
Oh, I love that.
I eat because I'm bored. I eat
because I'm bored.
I eat because I want to feel.
Because I eat.
Yeah, I want to feel the thrill. Sometimes I want to feel the heart palpitations. I want to have that moment of panic where you don't know if you're having a stroke. Like, these are the moments I live for. I want to feel tingles in my toes and wonder if I'm getting early onset diabetes.
Fair enough. Yeah. Gout. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
I am one of those people that actually like enjoys meat sweats.
Yeah, we're adrenaline junkies. That's what it is. Ooh. Except instead of diving out of planes, we're just eating unfathomable amounts of red meat.
Yeah, we are the unhealthy version of Tom Cruise.
Exactly, and I think there's a gap in the market for that.
I like it. Maybe we should start pivoting SuperShow to be more like, that kind of lifestyle.
The obese adrenaline junkies.
I remember, Jamie. I remember like, I'm talking years ago now when I was still living in South Africa.
Yeah,
a friend of mine, Peter Raff. I met him at a Brazilian restaurant, and we ate so much food. This is ridiculous. So we ate food, and another person was meant to join us, and he was like, "Just wait for me." But he was like, he took so long, he never eventually came. Oh. Right? So we were like snacking while we were waiting for him, and then eventually he told us he wasn't coming. So they were like, "Okay, cool. Well, we're gonna start our meal now." We ate so much food, Jamie, that when we were finished eating, so this restaurant was kind of like in a shopping center, like a outdoor shopping center, not like a strip mall, but like an outdoor shopping center. And both of us were so full we couldn't bring ourselves to drive ourselves home. So what we landed up doing was walking laps around the shopping center for about an hour, just to kind of like work off what we've eaten to feel comfortable enough to get in our cars and drive home.
I admire, though, that shows a certain amount of dedication, not just to the eating game, but to the overall grind involved around digestion, looking after your body. Like, that's a commitment there that I love. Like, you knew you had to pay the price for that meal, and you went in,
Well, you say commitment. I'm not saying like we did it because we wanted to burn off the calories. I'm saying we did it because physically we were just probably going to vomit in our cars.
But you paid the price. Like, you made the choice and you paid the price. And
dude, you know me. Like, the thing is, like, some people on the outside looking at me would probably be like, "Oh, that guy." Like, yeah, But I love my food. I'm such a fucking food dude. Food dude?
A food dude. Yeah, I like it.
I'm a food dude.
Yeah.
I'm all about it. I'm there, buddy.
Oh yeah.
Well, Jamie, you know what? We're coming up to 2 hours. And what did I say at the start of this podcast?
You said it was going to be an hour-long podcast.
Yeah, so if you take 2 hours and you watch it at 2 times speed, what is it?
It's an hour-long podcast. Wow.
Bam, baby, we fucking nailed it. I made my promise, I kept it.
Say what you want about this guy, but as far as I can see, the food dude delivers.
The food dude!
There you go.
Yeah,
He writes himself.
Use code SuperShow for 15% off at the food dude delivers.
Yeah, fuck Grubhub, it's all about the food dude.
Fucking hell, yeah, Deliveroo suck my cock.
I like Deliveroo, I gotta be honest.
Me too. I'm a Deliveroo guy.
Yeah, same.
Sure.
Fuck Uber Eats, if anything.
Yeah, fucking
I said
just eat. Go shit yourself.
Did somebody say just eat? No, no one did, ever. Stop saying, stop asking.
Except for Snoop Dogg. He said it.
Yes, and that one drunk guy in that viral video goes like, "What you guys into? You into your rap? Your drum and bass? Have you seen that video?"
Yeah.
That guy's so fucking funny.
Fucking weird.
Stupid fucking homeless weirdo uncle. That's the vibe I get from him anyway.
Nice. I like it. I'm all about it. Jamie, the only thing that's left, of course, is thanking the lovely listeners, viewers, thanking people who maybe thought it in their heart, kind enough to support our Patreon. But we also need a code word.
I mean, I'm going to say it up front, not just because it's recent, but also because I love it. I want the food dude to be involved in the code word somewhere.
The food dude delivers.
The food dude delivers, yeah. I mean, can we go for it simple?
What have I done? Yeah, sure. What have I done?
You started a movement between this and guilds. You know, we're creating movements. We're shifting the culture.
I like it. If only we were exposed to more people for it to kind of like take off in the zeitgeist. But hey,
known guild, the food dude.
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
Step aside, Mark Clancy. There's a new guild in town, and he's the food dude. Oh dear.
Well, is there anything else you want to say, Jamie, or can we
I was going to
sign
say,
off?
you can tell the midnight delirium has just set in. I think we've kind of timed this right where our delirium is peaking just as we end this podcast, and we don't get the slump afterwards. It's perfect.
Yeah, to be fair, that is a good decision, a decision that will always be popular with me, because one thing that absolutely destroys me is going through that delirium into that slump, and then looking at the podcast document in front of us and seeing like, oh, we still have about like an hour to go.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't do that. This is fucking mental.
No, yeah, this is a much. It's 12:15. That's a good ending time. It's not quite like the 1:30s we've had in recent weeks. In fact.
Yeah. So there you go. On, saying goodbye on the official release day of Horizon Forbidden West. If you're jumping into it, if you jump in it like Alex Jones does, then I hope you enjoy yourself, and I hope you enjoyed this podcast with me, the food dude, Chris.
I really wanted you to say it, and you did. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I knew I was going to make you happy saying it, and I live to make you happy, Jamie.
Mission accomplished.
Well, there we go. And yeah, so, hey, thanks for watching, and hopefully as the 3 stack, we'll speak to you next week. See ya.
Bye.